interviews with everyday people. I have Justina with me today. We're going to be talking about her experience on the P3 to Life program at p3tolife.com. So it's a fully comprehensive phase 3 program that came out in March 2017, and I'm having so many ladies that are doing so well on it. And this has actually been Justina's first round of HCG that she recently completed. So I might just ask you a little bit about that, but then we'll just talk about her experience with the program. So welcome, Justina.
Thank you.
So this being your first round of HCG, what got you started with actually with how did you discover it and how what got you started on it?
Well, I found your blog because this was prescribed to me by my doctor, and she gave me um, just like a 20-page printout from Pounds and Inches and like
Oh,
said,
okay.
here, you do it. And I was like, okay, how do I inject myself? How did I do everything? Like she didn't really tell me anything.
Yeah.
So I was looking for something for P2 and I came across your blog, hcgchica.com, and your videos were amazing
Oh, good.
and awesome and helped me so much through that portion. And then it just happened to be that P3 to Life, I got your email right like a week or 10 days before I was going to end the injections. And I was like, oh my goodness, I need this. Like I had done so well. And again, I was so afraid that I was going to gain it all back. So I wanted some guidance and a roadmap, and so that's how I signed up, and
Cool.
it's been great.
Good, that's good. Yeah, it's true. Like for a lot of us have done so many diets over the years, and like you said, the fear is based on some reality where in the past we have regained weight we lost. I remember one time I did, you know, the Candida diet probably.
Yeah, I've done.
We've all done that. Yeah, so I
Yeah,
did that once too, and I lost a lot of weight in a brief period of time, and I got very thin. But then I started not feeling well, and then yeah, there was no instruction on like kind of how to get off of eating that way. So when I just kind of started eating more normal again, I mean, it literally seemed like all of the weight like flew back onto my body. I mean, you know, when people use that illustration, it seems almost like a real thing. Like it just bam, it was all back, 20 pounds, you
yes,
know,
yeah,
and it was horrible. So
yes.
yeah, so it's nice to have something, you know, structured that helps you know like how to come off of something that's different from normal eating, which is what HCG is too, right? It's like the 500, it's very strict, it's a certain structure, and so it is hard when you're like, well, how do I transition to you know, another thing again? So let me just ask you, so if you were to explain in just a few sentences to another HCG or what the P3 program has done for you, how would you explain that?
It's basically given me a roadmap. Again, like you go from P2, a very strict, exactly what you eat, like these fruits, these vegetables at this time, like certain times a day, and very strict to, oh, just avoid sugars and starches. And it's like, okay, I've done the avoiding sugars and starches in the past, and it didn't work for me. Like it was like as soon as I would go off or anything, I gained it all back. And so I was like, okay, I know how to do low carb, I know how to do that, but it was like, okay, how do I make this work so that I am still successful? And I have a lot of weight to lose too, so I want to do it in a quick period of time too, where I wanted to stabilize quickly. I didn't want to spend months and months like yo-yoing because that's my problem is I always yo-yo, and so I wanted to be able to stabilize and then
Yeah,
be able to do another round quickly because I do have around 100 pounds to lose.
gotcha, gotcha.
So that's why I signed up, and it's been great because it was almost too much freedom, and this helped me guide in a way
Cool.
that yeah didn't it was it helped me guide it so I didn't have like I didn't go off or make a mistake. And again, when I make a mistake, I tend to get down on myself and things like
Yeah.
so.
It's funny how we do that, huh? I wanted to also mention what you said about having too much freedom because it's true. It's so funny how sometimes I think even in other areas of life, like having too much freedom is almost more limiting, you know,
Yes.
because you don't know like what do I pick? Actually, I remember, and this is kind of a little bit different, but I remember in high school, I used to love writing poetry and stuff. And in an English class, we had to do certain types of poems, and there was one that had all these rules like this line has to be written
Yes.
this way, and I
Uh-huh.
forgot what kind of poem it was called now. I don't know if it was like a haiku or anyway. But yeah, and I remember at first feeling like, I don't want to. This is just too many rules. Like I don't want to do that. But the funny thing was, is because of that exact structure that I had to follow, I ended up coming up with a much more creative, inventive poem than I would have without the structure, because I was having to fit my thoughts into this structure. And I learned such a big lesson from that. And I've always remembered it, like, because I was very surprised. And I thought, oh, wow, something different came out of my brain that wouldn't have come out with more freedom, you know?
Yeah, and that's P3 is kind of one of those you are finding your freedom, and this is a good like stepping ladder to get to. Okay, you give us recipes that are, by the way, delicious, like and have a lot of flavor. Like my whole family loves them, um, and it made me explore and not get in like the same rut. Like, okay, we're gonna have taco salad every night, or we're gonna have um, chicken and vegetables or something like this. This mixed it up, but it also provided me with structure so that I could really succeed and kind of know. And then I only had to focus on, okay, what's helping with my weight, what's not, and things like that. So it was great.
Good. Yeah, and it's you also had mentioned too that just like the guilt factor when you mess up or you feel like maybe you messed up, and then how then when you feel bad, then it's like we tend to just actually mess up more. You know, like and it seems so illogical, but we like pretty much all do that.
One that's like right at the end of P2, it was my daughter's birthday, and I was like, oh, I'll have one slice of cake. It'll be okay. And I did. I gained like 3 pounds, and I was like, darn it, I shouldn't have done that. I used an inject like, and then it was like, and then all of a sudden I'm noticing, and now I'm craving all this stuff. Why am I craving this? And
Yeah.
it's totally like you've talked about in your other videos. It's totally a relationship with food, and it's so much. We have our mind, body, emotions that's all mixed together, and um, that's what's really hard about losing weight healthfully and things
Yeah.
like that. It's so much more than just counting calories, or it's got so much to do with hormones and everything around it that it is it's difficult, and it's an emotional journey too. So
Yeah. No, it's true. It's so hard to separate those two things. And I mean, even to this day, I don't know if I've shared this before, but I have a thing against counting calories in the past, like, and also like even to this day it makes me feel anxious if I feel like if I were to count calories and then realize like I couldn't eat anymore for the day and it was like 7 o'clock, I would literally be like feeling panicky and like really feeling really just stuck and trapped, you know, and then I'd probably eat like a ton of food after that, you know. So like I finally had a breakthrough where I went to this class for this training thing to become a level one CrossFit trainer, actually. And there was a gal there who was really inspiring with how she looked. And I was like, wow, I'd love to look like you know. And she's like, well, this is, I just track my food just temporarily. It's not to like say a certain amount, but just to see what you're taking in, and then you can tweak it. And I got inspired enough to finally break down and just try it. And it was okay. I was okay because I was kind of trying to look at it from a new perspective. And then like with the phase three smoothies, which we'll talk about, it's kind of like I always have something I can have pretty much, like even
yeah,
if I've kind of already eaten a fair amount for the day. So that makes me feel safe. So it's like there's different things that I've realized that I have to do to help me feel, calm and like, yeah, okay, I have what I need. So it's an interesting thing, you know?
yeah, no, I don't, yeah, I don't like feeling deprived or anything like that, and it's a mental thing. It's not that
Yeah.
I'm physically starving
Right.
or anything, but it's a mental thing, and it's one that I've had since childhood because I struggle with my weight, and I would be jealous of girls that were could eat whatever they wanted, and then
Yeah.
that would actually I would self sabotage, which would be
Yeah.
silly and ridiculous, but it is that's our psyche, and
Right.
it's all wrapped up in emotions. So
That's true. Yeah. Well, that'll be, it's cool. Hopefully that'll keep continuing to be a journey that with this that will help, and get better with time too,
yeah,
So this was your first P3 ever, so you can't
yes,
compare it to previous ones,
no.
but I was curious, because I know you've done other diets, what do you feel like if you hadn't had the program, like what's different about having it versus not having that?
Well, definitely, this was my first P3, and I completely hesitated even trying the HCG diet for like months. Yeah, my doctor, um, was like, you really, okay, we fixed your hormones, let's work on losing this weight. And she's like, have you tried the HCG, have you heard about it? And I'm like, okay, let me research it. And then like people would say, oh my goodness, it destroys your metabolism. Or I heard somebody else, oh, I lost 35 pounds and I gained it all back. And so I was really scared to go on it. One, because the hormone is expensive. Like
Right.
it's an investment that you have to make. And so I wanted to be successful on it. But I was very afraid of being deprived. And P3 really helped me, give me the confidence that I'm like, okay, this food is delicious. I don't feel deprived. And it really gave me confidence in truly changing my eating habits, and seeing myself doing it. Yeah, I didn't feel deprived at all. And my scale was very stable. Like it was really easy to go through, which again, I've had such a struggle with diets that it was almost like, okay, this is coming off. The weight is actually coming off. And I've been
Yeah.
struggling this last time for a good 3.5 years to lose weight. And I've tried everything because I was going to CrossFit like
Yeah.
5 times a week.
Whoa.
And
I
yeah,
didn't know you were a fellow CrossFitter.
yeah, I've taken a break from it because I
Oh,
was
sure.
doing it to the point of exhaustion.
Yeah, I can't go
And
more than 3 days a week. I
yeah,
cannot, and I cannot go more than 3 days in a row. Like I can only go 2 days in a row. If I do a third, I am just wasted. So,
yeah. And my hormones were off. And so now I'm on hormone injections with my doctor,
yeah,
um, and things like that because my cycle was out of control. And
yeah,
I found the CrossFit being more of a frustration for me,
yeah,
because I am an athlete and I can do that. And
yeah,
I can show up and do whatever the coach tells me to do as hard as I possibly can.
yeah.
But the eating was the key component that wasn't working. And I tried my CrossFit coach's eating plan it was almost exactly a year ago. I started around the same time I did, late February, March. And um, it was,
Is that the one with like the blocks, like the
um,
zones?
it
Or
wasn't, she was doing it. It was, she had a certain number of calories and she told me, she kind of set up a plan for us about
okay,
what to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
okay,
And it was really, really, really hard for me. Like it was
really?
struggle. Like, and I didn't lose. Like it took me 4 or 5 months to lose like 8 pounds, and then
Whoa.
as soon as that time of the month came around, it would gain, and it would be just a struggle. And I ended up getting so frustrated that I just was like, I need to quit and start over and start new. And that's when I started seeing my naturopathic doctor last June.
Yeah.
Um, and I was getting migraine headaches when I was going, and I was just
Whoa.
pushing myself
It was
too
too
hard.
much, yeah. I'm curious, so since you tried this other eating plan that was supposed to be good, what was hard about it specifically? Since you
Um,
mentioned the P3 plan being, easy for you.
there was very little, there was a lot of protein in it.
Okay.
Like, and this was before I had found out I have a food sensitivity to eggs. So like she was having me eat like 6 eggs a day.
Oh, gotcha.
And I think it was causing inflammation in my body.
Yes.
And I wasn't feeling satisfied by it either.
Gotcha.
And it was a lot of repetitive too. So it was
Okay.
like um, tuna and salsa, or like, and it was just one of those things that I was not enjoying what I was eating. It took a lot of prep work.
Gotcha.
And and again, the mental thing, I was not in a good place mentally and ready to lose weight either.
Right.
And when you don't see the scale going down, but you're working your hardest at it, it's just
Yeah.
really frustrating.
Yeah, like
Uh,
why am I even doing all this
yeah,
work?
yeah. So that was
Gotcha.
what was really frustrating. And again, that's probably why I was so hesitant to try this diet, because it was like, oh my goodness, I don't want to fail. I'm like, I
Yeah.
want to do it, but I just want to keep making sure that I'm going in the right direction and not yo-yoing back and forth. Um,
Gotcha.
I have been able to do that with P3. Again, I've been really happy with my progress and things like that. So it's
That's
given me a lot of
great.
confidence. And again, your videos are great support too. Like I love it when, like, I loved reading and seeing your video about what happens when there are mishaps. Like, because it's
Right.
reality
Yeah.
that you're going to um, have a day where I get stuck in town and I don't have my foods and what can I do? And you just try your best and move on the next day. And that was also comprehensive. It's not just an eating plan; it's a support plan too, which is great.
Good. Yeah, I know. I wanted to cover that in the coaching area because, yeah, it's like sometimes people that don't have issues with food and weight and relationships with that, it's like, yeah, they kind of they don't realize that that's such a big part of it. It's not just about eating this many cups of this and that and like just do that and live that way. Like there's this whole component in our head that's involved, that we have to address or that's going to derail us,
Very
Yeah.
so yeah, and that's what I like because it's like, okay, it is a stepping stone. This is a journey. This is a life goal. And again, I tell myself that, but again, when you're starving and you don't have your meal or whatever,
Right.
and you're like, okay, what do I do? Um, it's one meal and you work on and you go to the next day and it is the corrections.
Right.
It's easy to make corrections and things like that and not get stalled for like days on end. And that's
Right.
helped a lot because it's like, okay, I messed up. Like we went out to eat and we went and got sorbet, which was delicious.
Yeah.
And I gained 3 pounds and I'm like, okay, what do I do? I was able to go right to your recipes and go, okay, this is what I can do.
Right.
Not, okay, keep messing up like 2 or 3
Right. Just
meals. Like,
having a plan of
yes,
what to go back to.
yes,
Gotcha.
exactly.
Now I'm curious since you mentioned following this other plan and that it was hard, and the repetition and a lot of prep work and stuff. Do you feel like so? Because it sounds like from following the P3 meal plan that it was more doable, enjoyable for you. Like, what was the difference there? Like, why? Just because I've actually had a couple people tell me that that it was like it was a lot of cooking or a lot of prep work doing just a few the phase 3 program.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you were just in a different headspace as well, or was it specifically easier for you and
I
better
think
in some way?
I think both.
Yeah.
I think definitely the fact that the food tastes good.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
like again, like things like roasted tomatoes,
Aren't
pecan,
those good?
like they're delicious. And why have I never picked them up? I've only picked that up when I'm like when they have either the basil and the garlic in them
Yeah.
or the like chilies in them. Like I've never just eaten roasted potatoes, but that adds so much
It
flavor
does.
to something that would be not normally good. And I think that's what it was is
Gotcha. So you were
it
doing the work, but then like the taste was like felt worth it for the work
yeah. And
versus
definitely
the other stuff you prepped, but then it was like kind of boring and the same thing, it
yeah.
sounds like. Okay.
Exactly. And it was like there was a lot of supplements on like having a protein shake
I see.
um and things like that. And again, like, oh, have this snack that and it tastes like protein powder and it
Oh,
just
gotcha.
and it
Just
was
not real
stuff
food.
yeah, and it was stuff that my kids couldn't eat, so I felt like I was making my own plan and then they were making their plan and it was something that was just it made me have cravings outside and the fact that the scale was not going down either
Right.
um, is in your mental space too. Like when it actually is working, it gives you a lot more incentive to be like, okay, I am going to stop what I'm doing and cook and prepare meals um, rather than skip it and just go out to eat or things like that. It gives
Yeah.
me a lot more incentive. And the
Great.
as far as the prep work, um, as long as I did it, I set aside time to do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't too difficult, and I would often like double or triple the recipes so that my husband and kids could eat it, but
Yeah.
also so that I had enough so that yeah, on dance night or on nights I could just grab something and eat it so it was there. And yes, my CrossFit coach was telling me that, but it just wasn't happening with the last one. And I
Right.
think it was the taste and the food and
Yeah.
um, my taste buds, what I like and things like that did not correspond with what she was what was
Gotcha. Because it was just really basic, it sounds like.
yeah. And then
Gotcha.
I tried Beachbody too, like with the little cups and plans after that one wasn't working.
Okay.
And it was working, but it was also like I could easily find ways to cheat on it, I think. Like
Yeah.
and it again wasn't what was suited to my needs or whatever. Like I was still feeling deprived on it and the scale was not going down. So
Gotcha. So then, in contrast with those, so how has it been like with making the recipes, and why has this been so much better for you with the P3 program?
Um, I think, well, one, you have a lot of instant pot recipes,
Oh, I love the Instant Pot.
which that I got one for on a Black Friday for it was my Christmas present
Nice.
for myself, and that has saved my life. And like even some of the like I did the chili verde in the Instapot, and it was great. I did a couple other recipes that I just tried them in the Instapot,
Yeah,
and it
it
worked.
works.
And
Yeah.
it was like it's been great because it's rather than, oh my goodness, I have to take out this and I have to like this whole again, like the last diets, a lot of fish were on the diet, and I
Yeah.
would constantly forget to defrost the fish, and then it would go bad for 3 days,
Yeah,
and then
I do that.
what are we do like, and fish is expensive too, and
Yes.
so it would be like, okay, I can't eat fish. There's some weeks that we just can't eat fish because
Right.
if not, we don't have time to do it. And
Right.
so I would use like an Instapot recipe, and it would be great because it would take 20 minutes start to finish, and then I'd make large batches, and then I'd have 2 or 3 meals on reserve for me, and that was something that I could always grab,
Great.
which was great. So
That's great. Yeah, it sounds like you were able to use the recipes with your family and just eat them as meals all together in general.
yeah,
Kids can pick out what they don't like. My son's picky too,
oh
but
yeah, that's but what's nice is like I made the chili verde, and they picked all the meat out of it, and they didn't want the sauce,
yeah.
but they ate the squash and the sauce, and I'm like, and the meat, and I'm like, I'm good, I'm
Yeah,
happy.
exactly. I know with kids, it's kind of like just eat some protein and eat a little bit of this vegetable and we'll call it good.
Yes,
It's like you're
good.
just happy
So
you got them to eat something.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's cool. Awesome. That's great. So as far as because it sounds like you're pretty busy. Like, can you share a little bit just about like your personal life and your schedule and how you made the logistics of the cooking and the eating happen?
Yeah. Well, I'm the main cook for my family.
Okay.
I have a small photography business on the side, that mostly I'm at home most of the weeks during the day from 9 to 3 when my kids are at school. But basically 3 nights a week from 4 o'clock till 8 o'clock, we're in town, and we live in a rural area, so we're 20 minutes outside of town. So it's not like we can run home and grab stuff. So I
Right.
have to pack dinner or we eat out,
Gotcha.
3 nights a week. And so this, I was able to pack meals for myself and my family.
Wow.
And so I would normally like cook in the middle of the day, get my work done, my photography, editing, and stuff done, and then plan a meal in the middle of the day. And sometimes I do it 2, 3 meals in advance and things like that. So then I just have them, and then I can cook them ready to go. And I have thermoses and things like that to keep it hot. And
Oh,
um,
great.
yeah, so that really helps. And again, we live in a rural area, so yeah, I live out of my car because yeah, we
You
it's
just have
just my
to.
kids are busy. Yeah, I have a 5 and a 9-year-old, and we have stuff going on. So I would try like yeah, Wednesdays and Fridays are my days that I'm home, so that we can. So those would be like the days that I would do like the sauteing meals or that
Gotcha.
where I actually cook, and then everything else I prepare before.
Before,
Um,
great.
yeah, and so that's how I would do it. And yeah, my Instant Pot saved my life, and then also um, Thrive freeze dried meats and
Yeah,
vegetables.
can you actually tell? I have no idea what that is. Can you
Yeah,
explain what that is? That sounds intriguing.
they're basically freeze dried meats, vegetables, actually
Wow.
anything under the sun. And so it makes like the chicken is already cooked and pre-shredded.
Wow.
So I throw it in you can, like, I could make a chicken salad with just using like boiling water, and it's
Okay.
ready in like 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Uh, but it works wonderfully with the Instapot because you just throw everything in. There's no cutting, chopping, and it's really fresh and nothing goes bad. So like I will throw like um, roasted tomatoes, and then the chicken, and sometimes sausage or something like that, and then it cooks for 6 to 7 minutes, and then it's ready to go, and I just put it in a thermos. Or and I do
Wow.
have like extra like rescue meals. Like I do have like the chicken salad all mixed up, and then all I have to do is find like hot water, which you can drive through um, any fast food restaurant and just say, "Can I get a hot cup of water?" or order a
Oh,
tea and throw away the tea bag or things like that. And
wow,
then
I never even thought of that. That's such a good
yeah,
idea.
yeah. So it saved my rear a lot of times because yeah, like my kids, I never know how, like you said, sometimes they don't eat anything, and then sometimes they're like, "Mom, I'm starving. Like you
Right.
only packed this much for dinner." And so it's been like I have fruits and vegetables always on hand. That my kids eat the fruits
Yeah.
like they're chips, like they're freeze dried and they're
Yeah.
great. That saved me a lot of times so
Wow.
that I'm always prepared. And that helped me, like, again, I photograph births. And so I was on call and didn't know when I was going to have to leave. And so I was able to pack a cooler and stay on plan
Cool.
uh, and not have the stuff go bad or things like that. So
That's great. So where do you get the freeze
it's,
dried?
it's a direct sales company, but it's thrivelife.com.
Okay, we'll put a
And
link
it's,
to that in the show notes, you guys. Guys, thrivelife.com.
yeah, and it
That's
does.
really neat.
And what's wonderful about it is that it's not like you look at the back of the ingredients and like broccoli is really just broccoli,
That's
or like
awesome.
my kids love it, like they eat them like veggie chips, like, and it's just broccoli. It's not any extra
Gotcha.
preservatives or anything like
Right.
that. And so it's really, I know what I'm getting when I'm eating it. And it's helped me with P2 too, because it's like, okay, I need a quick meal. So I
Yeah.
know I've measured it out how much is equivalent to the 100 grams. It's like really 70 to 80 grams is my
Okay.
thing. So I put it on I weigh that out and I know, and I can eat it if I'm out and about. So it's been great.
That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that tip. That's awesome. So you would actually like take the freeze-dried food with you, like even on P2 maybe, and then are you saying that you would just eat it that way or that you would get the hot water from a
I get the
place
hot water. Usually
and
with
add it?
the fruits and vegetables are good
But
freeze
not the
dried,
meat probably.
but
Yeah.
not the meat is pretty dry.
Yeah, like
So, but yeah, if I'll either bring a thermos of boiling water or
okay.
I'll drive through and get a tea and
So does
just use.
that make it essentially like a soup or you're pouring out the water after and it's just more
It usually
rehydrated?
hydrates. It depends how much water you do. It can do soup or like
Okay.
my favorite is chicken salad, which is like celery, onions, some spices, and the chicken, and I just put it in a mason jar and then
Yeah.
I heat it up and then it's ready to go. And it's like, and again, I was out photographing like all day, all one Saturday. And again, my husband and kids went out to eat, but I had these mason jars so I could eat that on P2 and stay on program. And it was great. So
That is such a great tip, you guys. Thank you. That is really that's good to know because we need more options for being out and about, you know? I
and
mean,
it is.
I've been known to go to Safeway, like wherever we went on a vacation, and people like I do weird stuff because like you said, so when you're trying to stick to something, it's worth it sometimes. So it's like I just go. We couldn't find because I can't eat gluten, and we were in this really rural spot, and like we couldn't seem to find a restaurant that was open or that would probably have something I could eat. And so it's like I went to Safeway and I literally bought a can of salmon, like and I just like ate it outside of the car because I don't want to stink up the car. Like with the tab that you can. So I lifted that and I just ate it, and then put it in a little bag and we tossed it, and just so that I at least had something. And then it didn't really matter honestly after that if we found something special or not, or my husband and son can eat whatever. And sometimes it might sound extreme, but it's like to have the life that like most of it was like vacation to have fun with each other and be out in nature. I wasn't there to be eating out. That wasn't the focus. So
Yes.
I don't care. Like it's okay with me to have to
Yeah.
do that sometimes. But I like your idea. That sounds even better.
Well, it's nice because, again, with my kids, I never know how much or how little they eat. And so
Yeah.
it doesn't go bad. And that's
Yes.
like last night, I was shopping. And so I picked up a rotisserie chicken
Yeah.
uh, and had pitas for them. And they made their little sandwiches. Like my 5-year-old put strawberries and the dark meat of the rotisserie chicken in, and she ate that. where I just ate the chicken and then I grabbed a small salad from the grocery store that was just lettuce and
Yeah.
apples and things like that. So
That's
I was,
great. No, I'm gonna have to try that for my son actually because he's the same way where he's like not hungry and then he's starving all of a sudden.
yeah,
And like yeah, and I'll do that where I'll bring this big bag of blueberries, right? Like fresh ones. But then
yeah,
he's like not hungry or he eats like five of them and then they're sitting in the car and they get all smashed and then and
yeah,
then they're all like fermenting in there 3 days later and then
yeah,
now he's hungry and of course he can't eat those and it's just like
yes, exactly. And then, yeah, and then they're like, well, why can't we just drive through it? I'm like, I'm trying to teach you good habits
I know.
so that you don't have to go on a diet when you're older. I don't
Yeah, and like who wants to deal with that smell either? Like as you
exactly.
know
Yeah,
yourself. Like I don't want to smell that
exactly.
yummy food.
Yeah,
That's funny. So it sounds like with the meal plan, you guys that with on the program, there's now three different formats of the meal plan. There's the original meal plan, a simplified plan, and a build your own. And so it sounds like with you, I think actually only the original was available when you
yeah,
started.
yeah,
So how did you utilize it? It sounds like you kind of tweaked it to fit your family. Is that
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I use the original program with tweaks. I cook for my whole family, and that's the one thing I don't like about dieting is me eating separately from my kids or things like that. It just is an emotional turnoff, and it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Um, and so I didn't want to make multiple meals. So we also have a tight budget. Because we're a one income family. My photography makes enough about to support itself and a
Yeah.
little bit for fun stuff like
Yeah.
Christmas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But my husband is the main breadwinner, and so we are on a tight budget.
Yeah.
And so I love that these recipes were allowed me to cook um, one one meal for multiple meals. So I would normally double or triple what was recommended,
Yeah.
and then that would be plenty. Like sometimes tripling the meal would be enough for the four of us
Great.
because my kids sometimes would eat it, sometimes would not.
Yeah.
Um, and then both my husband and I would at least have a lunch left over, and sometimes
Great.
two or three.
Cool.
So yeah, I would just find I would look for meats on sale. I wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to go get like the filet mignon
Oh
or
yeah.
anything like that. So I'd look for the meats on sale or things
Great.
like that and substitute in. My husband loves tri-tip, so we would cook up like a whole tri-tip and then incorporate it into the meals or things like
Perfect.
that and
That's
stuff.
great. I'm glad that you shared that too because sometimes for some of us who are less familiar with cooking, we might be overwhelmed or not sure like how to do that. And so those are great tips that you guys can tweak things. It's like if you're using lean meats, just replacing it with another lean meat or like different side of cut of beef is going to be fine. These meals are honestly very healthy. So it's like if you're just replacing a meat or a vegetable, it's not going to be a problem, which it sounds like it was very successful for you. In fact, we're going to ask about your results in a minute, but yeah, so you guys can totally do that. And I love to find out that the recipes are scalable like that, where you can triple
Yeah.
them and then they still end up tasting good and all, you know.
One, like even my kids loved your smoothies, and sometimes I didn't want to be making them multiple times a day. So
Oh
like
yeah.
I'd make a whole pitcher of it and then freeze them in um, ice cube trays, and then
Cool.
sometimes I'd either eat them like popsicles. We put them into molds for Easter, and that's what we had for dessert on Easter because they had already had so much candy anyway. Um, and so and that's what and even as I'm doing P2, I made some of those smoothies up for my kids so that they can just go and grab them out of the freezer and I know they're eating something healthy and sometimes they want me to reblend them up and I reblended it up for Haley and I just poured in some almond milk or with I redo it I pour in some water and it's great.
That's a
um,
great idea. Yeah, so you guys in the plan, I even have like it's like a course within a course. So in the program, I have like this whole video course on how to make dessert smoothies for P3, and they're all sugar free and they're very low calorie and they have a lot of flavor. And I use them for my maintenance. They're like my dessert. I actually don't even eat dessert actually outside of them ever because I have such a sugar addiction. So for me, that's kind of how I get my sweet but they're a little bit of a trick to making them. So I kind of made all these videos and stuff. It sounds like you got the hang of it, and actually I see your
yeah.
Vitamix in the background there.
Yes, I have a mix. And like you're saying, I only have a small dry one. I don't have a small wet one.
Yes.
So to to make 4 servings of them is a lot easier in the Vitamix. And
Yes.
so then I just freeze the rest, and then I just throw them back in and add a little bit of liquid, and it blends up really well.
That's a great idea. Yeah, so you could like basically batch making the P3
Yeah,
smoothies so that yeah, and then freezing them and it still tastes good when you add a little water and stuff and it works fine.
yeah, yeah, it's
Cool.
great. Yeah. And something else I tweaked was my daughter, my youngest, my 5-year-old and I are egg and dairy free. So I love that most of the meals, especially in the first 2 weeks of P3, are already dairy free.
Right.
So I didn't have to worry about that. And even the third week is limited dairy.
It is. And
And
that's
I
can easily replaced with coconut milk or
Oh yeah,
something.
and
Yeah.
and we can do goat milk. So like occasionally, if we do need a little
Perfect.
creamier, we'll use the goat milk or things
Gotcha.
like that. And I played with recipes to like with the mug breads to try to get um, the using flax or things like
I
that
know
to
that
sort
was a little
of,
trickier, huh?
yeah, it's a little trickier, but again, the flavor is still there.
Good.
And so I was able to easily around our allergies and things like that. It's been great to be able to just tweak that
Good.
so that it makes it and yeah, there were some things that I never thought to be, oh, I can add coconut milk to this and it adds such cream to it and it's great. And you don't taste the coconutty flavor or anything like that. So it's been great.
Cool, good. Yeah, well, that's great to hear that you can alter the plan to fit you and then it still works well, which let's talk about that now. With following the P3 to Life program, what have been your results? Like, that's what people want to know. They're like, well, that's
Yeah,
great that the recipes taste good, but like, how's your weight doing?
yeah.
Like, how did
So
it
I
work for you?
so I did the protocol with my doctor. So she had me on. She originally said 28 days, and it actually they only last about 23 days. So I was on
Okay.
um, the injections for 23 days, and I lost 19 net during P2.
Okay.
And then afterwards, I continued to lose, even on P3, an additional 5 to 7 pounds. So I was able at the end of P when I was even introducing carbs back in a little bit for more maintenance, I was maintaining between 20, I think it was 26 and 24 and 26 pounds off.
Nice.
And so, yeah, again, I wanted to get to 20 pounds for my first P2. And so I was a
Yeah.
little like, oh, I was so close to
At
20
the
pounds.
19.
I was expecting to gain a little bit and then maintain where in fact I lost another 5 to 7 pounds. So it's been great and I've been able to stay it off and I've been going and I went back on P2 and I'm continuing to lose. So it's been great. So
That's
um,
fantastic. Which, for women that have, like you said, when there's a little bit more, if they're in the 50 to 100 pound weight loss zone that they have, a lot of those women do like to continue to lose in P3 if they can, just
yeah,
because they do have a longer journey. And so, because, people have different opinions on this. So, and I totally respect that, you guys, about whether or not to make sure you stabilize within the 2 pounds on P3 or to continue to lose. I actually get the question all the time by email. And I have to say, just from what I've seen, I don't see it as being a problem when people continue to lose. I haven't seen that to actually be a problem. So it just kind of depends on what you want, and when you have more, if you lose a few extra pounds, for most people, it's been fine, So, and it's a choice too. It's like for you, you were losing a little bit extra. If you really had wanted to stabilize, and you were losing on following the plan, all you have to do is like add a little butter. I mean, it's very easy to
yes.
add calories, you guys. So,
Yeah, it's very easy. And that was I went to my doctor concerned. I'm like, do I need to stay on the maintenance longer because I'm losing weight? And she's like, no, you should be just fine.
yeah.
She says in our results, she's like losing in her observations, losing weight is a good thing. It's not necessarily unless you're losing too much. But in my
Right.
case, that's not the
Yeah,
problem.
it was, yeah, and you were eating so well. So anyway, at least you guys know that you have that choice. So like if you are losing and you want to, fine. If you're like, no, I do want to stabilize, you can. You add a little more calories. And in fact, I have a video in the coaching section or in one of the sections in the program that tell you how to easily add calories if that's what you want. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's great. I'm so glad to hear that because I feel like at least I don't know if you think that this is true, but just since you mentioned that there's that fear, like this is going to be hard, or it sounded like you said you're expecting to gain or to struggle with
Yeah.
that. And then when you didn't, I mean, did that feel empowering to you or give you a
Oh,
sense of
very much
control?
so. It gave me so much confidence. And again, I told because I had been struggling for so long, like years, and like keep hitting my head against the wall. And I was saying this losing weight should not be that hard, and it doesn't have to be. And that's what I told my doctor. I said this was gave me the truth that losing weight and eating healthfully and doing things to get to your goal weight and things like that is not that hard. I mean, it's difficult. It's definitely a challenge, and
Right.
day to day, like yes, I'm working at it, and it's in the front of my brain, and it's a priority right now.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing with it, so that gives me a lot of relief and a lot of confidence and a lot of okay, this is the right thing for my body, and
Right.
giving me confidence back in my body because I'm actually um, all mixed up with it is I've had a lot of miscarriages, and when I
Oh.
gained a ton of weight, it had to do with hormones, but it was right after a miscarriage, and
Wow.
it was just one of those things when you're had a lot bad happen to you, you almost expect the bad to happen,
Right.
and things like that, and so. And that's why I kept saying it shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be this hard. And the HCG diet has been like, no, it's not that hard. And that was my doctor. She's like, you're right. It's not that hard. It's not the huge mountain that you're putting in front of you. And
Right.
that's given me this road path through all my medical issues and things like that to help give me something so that I am losing weight and doing well and succeeding. So,
That's great. That is so good. Yeah, I just feel like I think I listen to podcasts a lot, and there's some ones that different like things just that talk about the whole mental side of just life and psychology and all that. And one of the things they talk about is that there's like different types of stress, right? That there's stress that's good. Like we all
mhm.
need some level of stress. It's kind of what helps us get things done where we feel like, oh, I want to do this, or we feel a push to do something, and that can be good. But then it talks about what I had listened to is that toxic stress is when you are in a situation where you feel like you don't have control, that
Yeah.
you are helpless, and that because things are happening that you don't have control over, and that can be toxic stress, and that can be hard sometimes, like with weight loss in your body, when you literally like, I don't know why my body doesn't respond to this, or I don't know why this feels so hard, or I don't know how to make it better, and you feel so helpless.
Yes, and
So
that's very much so. Like, yeah, the very much toxic stress. And I was diagnosed last year with PTSD because it was a not a good experience, and
yeah.
that mixed up with trying to lose weight and trying to almost control everything that I put in my body,
Yeah.
and my body almost resisted it, and it was
Yeah.
like, and I felt like my body was failing me, and
Yeah.
lots of things, and that I was just doomed to be this 260-pound woman for the rest of my life. And I was at that point where I even looked into like
The
surgery
weight
and
loss
gastric
surgery.
bypass and things like that, and
Yeah.
was seriously considering that when the CrossFit diet was not working. And it was
Right.
like, okay, well, everyone's telling me that I'm so obese that this is going to affect my life and my livelihood. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And so I'm really glad I found this doctor who put me into the connection with HED because I feel a lot better, my energy levels better, and things like that.
Really. I'm
And it's
curious, when you did P2, since you did it with a doctor, did they
yeah,
have you do like the B12 shots and lipo shots too, or no?
no, I
So
just
just the HCG.
I do
Cool.
have a monthly injection of bioidentical hormones for my
Okay.
cycle, and
Yeah.
that does have B12 in it.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I have not. I've just been doing the
Gotcha.
HCG injections.
Cool.
Yeah,
I'm curious what dosage, do you remember what dosage of HCG you ended up being on?
yeah. She has me on 200, I
Yeah.
believe, which I know is higher
Yeah.
than
Well, some
which.
people do good on it though. It really,
Yeah.
it's just very individual is all it is. So that's great. Yeah.
So it's yeah, I'm on 200, and she continued me on it for the second round too.
Cool.
So yeah, and I've been doing well on it. So.
That's so great. That is awesome to hear. Well, I think we're just about done here. I'm just trying to think if there's anything. I like one thing that you wrote was that one thing that's been different for you is just the variety on the plan.
Yes.
Like, how has that made a difference for you? Because I did purposefully with the recipes, you guys. Okay, because typically when you hear the term meal plan, I don't know about you, but I think more of like what you did maybe with the CrossFit, where it says like
Yes.
on the week it says half cup tuna plus half
Yeah.
cup celery or something
Yeah.
like that, right? So that's kind of what I picture. And so I also want to be careful. Like, I don't want to mislead you guys. It's not at all that, because
No.
I think that's boring also. And I also wouldn't make you pay for something like that either. Like, I'm not going to make you pay to like tell you to eat a half cup of tuna. So the
Yeah.
meal plan is, they're all custom recipes. And there's a ton of variety in like the cultural aspect of it. So there's Thai food,
Yes.
there's Mexican, there's Greek, there's Italian, there's Chinese. I mean, there's everything, and Indian. And I did that purposefully for the variety factor. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
Well, that's I loved because again, and I've noticed that I grew up in a family where my mom cooked, but it was the same thing every week. Like we'd have barbecue chicken one night and spaghetti the next night and tacos, and it was just, and so that's, you get into your rut of things. And what I loved about this is it kind of got me out of my comfort zone. Um, and I learned again, like I've never made a curry dish before in my life, and I was shocked that it was so easy that I just threw it in my Instapot and it was good. And yeah, my kids didn't love it, but my husband and I did,
Yeah.
and it was completely different. So it was like usually when we get on our rut, it's like, oh, I want pizza, or I want, let's go out to dinner, or things like that, where that this variety helped. Okay, well, we've had Mexican 3 nights this week or whatever. Let's try Thai, or um, let's try something else. And so that helped a lot. Where I have found in like diet plans in the past is it does kind of go to the strength of people of what they like to eat. Like, yeah, my CrossFit trainer loved tuna. So tuna was on like every meal. And I'm like, I need something besides tuna. Or she would say, put salsa on everything. And I'm like, I need something besides salsa. And like, so you can do it Italian, or you can do it this way. And so that's what it helped me get out of my funk of, okay, cooking the same thing every day. And that helped make it interesting, and help give me confidence in cooking and using different spices and things like that, that has really brought flavor to the food. And again, it doesn't feel, I don't feel deprived at all. And like most of these recipes, we haven't had a bad one yet
Oh,
where we're
good.
like, because I know sometimes, like, yeah, you open a Cooking Light magazine, or you
Yeah.
open something else and they're like, try this. And it's like, you kind of have to convince yourself that, okay, I'm eating something really good for me, where we haven't felt that way at all. Like, I feel like I could cook this for guests, any of
Good.
these recipes, and they would be delicious and good. And nobody would think that we're on a diet or anything like that. So that's been really, really great. And again, my husband, he's not a picky eater, but he's been really happy with the food too.
Oh,
He's like,
good.
oh, you're cooking, everything's eating so well, and things like that. And
Good.
before this, I had gotten into such a, like, I didn't want to cook. Like, it was a chore, and it was exhausting and frustrating. Um, and it was just one of those things where I'm finding the joy in cooking again, which is
That's
great.
great. Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. I've actually been hearing that from a lot of the ladies I've interviewed, that their husbands are happy. They're like, my husband loves the food, and some of them are like, they're like, yeah, and he's picky, you know. So,
Yeah.
so that's really pleasing to hear. Yeah, and I think too, like the variety, like you said, it helps you not get bored, so that then you want to go out to eat. Because I think it's true. It's just you just get bored, and I do the same thing. I'll get in a rut, you know, and like just the same, because it's, and but yeah, then you're just like, well, I'm sick of that. Let's go out and eat something different, you know. But then you don't have to, because you, like you said, you've got something totally different flavor profile to try. So
Yeah. And I had a friend who, like, she's just starting her stuff today, and she was like, do I have to eat seafood? And I was like, no, you don't have to eat seafood. If you
yeah,
don't want salmon, or if you don't want what's on there,
yeah,
pick something else, because
yeah.
they're all interchangeable.
Right,
So it's not like you have to eat this on Monday and that on Tuesday, or this for lunch and this
right.
for dinner. It's not like, because that was the thing the last was, if you ate this for breakfast, you had to have something different for lunch, because it was all based on your calories and your macros and all
Yeah,
this. And
yeah.
so it was like, oh, well, I can't make this for lunch. So now what do I do? And that was the flexibility in this
Gotcha.
program is great. So.
Gotcha. I'm so glad to hear that. That's great. Well, I guess that's about it there. So I was just curious, what was what was your favorite? Did you have a couple favorite recipes?
Yes, my husband and even my kid, we love the chile verde. It was
Oh,
delicious. And I made like a big batch of it that we still have. Like I'm on P2 now, so my husband is still enjoying it.
yeah.
Like he threw it in breakfast burritos. Like
Cool.
he threw it with eggs and loved it.
Nice.
And then my kids love the blackberry zinger smoothie. Like
Good.
they eat that every day. Like even we were like, let's try something different. Let's try a different one. And my daughter, my 9-year-old was like, can I just pull, because I had them in the freezer. She's
Uh-huh.
like, can I just have that one? And I go, yeah, you can. So she blended that one up for herself.
Good.
So
And
that,
don't you love that they're so healthy? Like you don't have to worry
yes.
about, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like it's not the granola bars or it's what they liked. They like it. And I know that, yeah, they can eat as many as they want because it's healthy for them. And it's
Yeah.
not, we don't have to worry about sugar and stuff like that. And
That's great.
especially since they're so active. So it's,
Yeah. I'm so glad to hear that. It's funny. My son, he's thin as a rail, but he's really sensitive to sugar. So
oh,
we took it out of his diet probably over a year ago now. I don't know how long it's been, at least a year. And because he has so much energy,
yeah,
even without sugar. So once he has sugar, it's just over the top, and he has a really hard time with self-control and self-regulation if he has sugar. Like I can tell pretty much if he's had it
yeah.
like somewhere else because he loses the ability to control himself, and he doesn't like that feeling either. He told me that once because sometimes people might think like you're awfully strict or just like, oh, come on, let the kid have a cookie, or it's like, but one time he actually told me that he was grateful that he doesn't have sugar because he doesn't like the feeling that he can't control when he can't control his behavior. And I was shocked because I thought, like, I wonder how he feels about it. I mean, he goes along with it because he's our kid, he's 7, but and he told me that once, and I thought, interesting.
Yeah, and that's been great. Like we just recently put my 5-year-old off of dairy, and so it's been an up and down. She
Sure.
misses certain things,
Oh
but
yeah.
she notices it like and she gets like mouth sores when she eats a lot
Oh
of dairy or things like
wow.
that. And so she's starting to realize that. She is like, oh, I have a tummy ache because I probably ate too much cheese or too much this or things like that. And so kids do self-regulate, and I've seen that, and they are, again, they might not appreciate it now, but I'm hoping that they will later when
They
they don't
will.
have when they have more freedom with food, I hope, as an adult, and not
Yeah. I know that's
like,
what I hope too because
yeah,
I mean my son does the same thing. Like he told me that one time, but there's definitely plenty of days where he's just like, I wish I could have ice cream. And I'm always trying to replace, right? It's not like, well, here's some celery. It's definitely like, oh, let's make you a fruit smoothie
yeah,
instead, or let's find something you can eat. And he's usually pretty good, but every now and then he's like, and I just hope the same thing. I'm hoping that like, and maybe eventually he can handle some sugar without it affecting his behavior too as he gets older possibly, but I'm just hoping that, well, maybe later he might like eat bad like when he's a teenager or something, but I'm hoping that he'll like see the difference in how he
yes,
feels and at least come back around to healthy eating sooner in life, than if he hadn't
yeah,
experienced it. That's my hope.
exactly. Yes, mine too.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Justine. I really appreciate it. Yeah, and I hope that this current round you're on goes well, and the rest of your journey
Yep,
does.
it's so far so good. So I'm hoping I have a lot more confidence this round. So it's good.
Good. Thank you.